Dear friends, in the previous conference, I began reading chapter 6 of the book of Revelation. We saw the opening of the first 4 seals of the scroll. In this conference, we shall see the opening of the 5th and of the 6th seals. So we resume our reading of Revelation chapter 6 at verse number 9. When he, that is the Lamb, when he opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the witness they had borne. They cried out with a loud voice, O sovereign Lord, holy and true, how long before you will judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell upon the earth? Then they were each given a white robe and told to rest a little longer until the number of their fellow servants and their brethren should be complete, who were to be killed as they themselves had been. So I saw under the altar. John sees an altar. This is due to the fact that the book of Revelation depicts heaven as a heavenly temple. And so the description of heaven at times draws features from the earthly temple, that is, the Jerusalem temple, and applies them in a symbolic way to the heavenly temple of God, which is heaven. Now, in the Jerusalem temple, there was an altar, the altar of Holocaust. On this altar, so animals were offered in sacrifice. Here, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the witness they had. The translation I am using says that the witness they had borne, but actually borne is not present in the Greek text, which says, for the witness they had. Now, that seems something curious and strange. What does it mean to have the witness? But actually, it is a Johannine expression. This is why I think it is important to respect the Greek text, the witness they had. Johannine expression we find in the first epistle of John, chapter 5. Verse 9. If we receive the testimony of man, the testimony of God is greater. For this is the testimony of God, that he has borne witness to his Son. He who believes in the Son of God has the testimony in himself. You see, he who believes in the Son of God has the testimony in himself. That is John's conception of faith. For John, the Father gives testimony in favor of his Son. And when somebody comes to believe in Jesus as the Son of God, it means that he receives and welcomes in his heart that heavenly testimony of the Father in favor of his Son. This is what it means to have the testimony and to keep it, of course. To use the expression to bear the testimony in the case of those souls under the altar in the 5th seal of Revelation 6, it is not wrong, but it is a consequence. Because those people received, welcomed, and kept the testimony of God in favor of Jesus, then they too became able to bear testimony in favor of Jesus. For that testimony, they were slain. So they are martyrs. Martyrs because of their testimony. Now, what are the souls of these martyrs? What are they doing under the altar in heaven? That seems very strange indeed. But I think it is very significant. Let us remember that all the Hebraic anthropology, according to which life is in the blood. We see that in the first chapters of Genesis, and this explains why Hebrews do not eat or drink blood, because life is in the blood. And so when you lose your blood because you are put to death, then you lose your life, you lose your souls, so to speak, your life. And so the souls are under the altar because their blood is under the altar. What does it mean? I think there's a passage in the Old Testament which is quite enlightening. We find it in a book you may not be very familiar with, although you know its existence, Leviticus. Leviticus, which usually is not the favorite book of the Bible for Christians. So here, let us refer to Leviticus chapter 4, which contains instruction for sacrifices. Leviticus 4:4. So if anyone sins unwittingly, let him offer for the sin he has committed a young bull for a sin offering. So he shall bring the bull to the door of the tent of the meeting. The priest shall kill the bull. The priest shall take some of the blood, bring it to the tent of meeting. The priest shall dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle part of the blood 7 times before the Lord in front of the veil of the sanctuary. The priest shall put some of the blood on the horns of the altar of fragrant incense before the Lord, and the rest of the blood of the bull he shall pour out at the base of the altar of burnt offering, which is at the door of the tent of meeting. So notice this point. The rest of the blood shall be poured out at the base of the altar. Then we begin to understand that the blood of those martyrs, the text does not say whether they are only Christian martyrs. Some commentators suggest that they could include martyrs at the time of the Old Testament. That's possible. It is not said. What is important here is the fact that the violent death of those martyrs, because they have been slain because of their testimony, their violent death is considered by the book of Revelation as a sacrifice. And this is very important, because we should not forget the fact that, yes, we live in the 21st century of the history of the church. We are accustomed to thinking that bloody martyrdom for Christ is something great, very honorable, the supreme testimony of love given to Christ, and so on. And this is true, indeed. But at the end of the first century, that is, at the time Revelation was written, that was not so obvious. And so we may understand the cry of those martyrs. O sovereign Lord, holy and true, how long before you will judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell upon the earth? Which is a way of saying, Lord, your servants are put to death. What are you doing? What are you waiting for to avenge our blood? This reminds us of some Psalms in the Old Testament. Just one example, Psalm 79. O God, the heathen have come into your inheritance. They have defiled your holy temple. They have led Jerusalem in ruins. They have given the bodies of your servants to the birds of the air for food, the flesh of your saints to the beasts of the earth. Then, verse 5, how long, O Lord, will you be angry forever? Will your jealous wrath burn like fire? Pour out your anger on the nations that do not know you, and on the kingdoms that do not call on your name. For they have devoured Jacob and laid waste his habitation. Possible allusion to the ruin of the temple by Nebuchadnezzar in 587 before Christ. So, how long, O Lord, a well-known cry especially in the book of Psalms. People believing in God, the faithful of God are persecuted, and the Lord seems to do nothing. And which this is very hard for the faithful to understand and to bear. How long, O Lord, will you wait until you do something? Now, we should be more precise as far as the translation is concerned. O sovereign Lord, holy and true, how long before you will judge? And it's not really to avenge our blood, because if you translate that way, then you will think that those martyrs are thirsty for vengeance, which is problematic. Christians are supposed not to take revenge. The New Testament is very clear on this. Let me just quote Romans chapter 12:17. Repay no one evil for evil. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. If your enemy is hungry, feed him. If thirsty, give him drink, and so on. So, martyrs should not pray the Lord to avenge them. That would be contrary to the gospel. But actually, that's not what the text says. How long, O sovereign Lord, holy and true, how long before you will judge? Yes, that is correctly translated. And bring justice from those who dwell upon the earth, which means that they ask not for vengeance, but for justice. The Greek verb which is used, ekdikein, you see it also in the parable of the widow asking for justice from a wicked judge in Luke chapter 18. You do not go to a judge in court asking him to avenge you. No, you go to court because you hope to get justice, not revenge. And that's exactly what those martyrs are doing. They are not looking for revenge, they are looking for justice. And this is good. God just cannot remain indifferent, seeing that some of his faithful are put to death by the wicked. But apparently, God seems to do nothing. How long, Lord, before you judge and bring forth justice on those who dwell upon the earth. So they are thirsty for justice, which is very good and really consistent with the gospel. So it is a trial to see the people of God suffering and God apparently doing nothing. Let us turn to God's answer. Then they were each given a white robe and told to rest a little longer, and the number of their fellow servants and their brethren should be complete, who were to be killed as they themselves had been. Oh, this is very surprising indeed, because basically this means, dear martyrs, sorry, you are not enough. I need more martyrs until the number of their fellow servants should be complete, who were to be called as they themselves had been. Yes, I know you have been put to death, and I tell you, more will be put to death until their number is complete. But why does the Lord give such an answer? Why does he need other martyrs? At that stage of the book, the answer is not yet given. It shall be given further, especially in chapter 14. Then we shall understand why God waits until the number of martyrs is complete and what he's going to do with the blood of martyrs. Let us turn now to the sixth seal. When he opened the sixth seal, I looked, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth, the full moon became like blood, and the stars of the sky fell to the earth as the fig tree sheds its winter fruit when shaken by a gale. The sky vanished like a scroll that is rolled up. Every mountain and island is removed from its place. Then the kings of the earth and the great men and the generals and the rich and the strong and everyone, slave and free, hid in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains, calling to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who is on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who can stand before it? This is a good example of apocalyptic literature. Again, I already said it several times, but maybe it's worth repeating it. Let us not take literally those images. This is not about a cosmic catastrophe. We should rather inquire, where do those images come from and what do they mean? Those images come from the prophets of the Old Testament. Let me just give you one example. I think it shall be enough. Book of Joel, chapter 2. Chapter 2, blow the trumpet in Zion, sound the alarm on my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming. It is near. Then, verse 10, the earth quakes before them, the heavens tremble, the sun and the moon are darkened, and the stars withdraw their shining. The Lord utters his voice before his army, for his host is exceedingly great. He that executes his word is powerful. For the day of the Lord is great and very awesome. Who can endure it? You see those images? The Lord, the moon are darkened, the stars withdraw their shining. These are traditional images which accompany the announcement of the coming of the Lord's day, the day of the Lord. And actually, that's exactly what we see in Revelation 6. For the great day of the wrath has come, and who can stand before it? What is the day of the Lord? In the Old Testament, it is a topic which we see in the minor prophets, the 12 minor prophets, and Joel is one of them. To sum up, the day of the Lord shall be the day of judgment. On this day, the Lord shall recompense the faithful, the righteous, and will punish the wicked. So basically, it is at the same time day of judgment, day of salvation for the faithful, and day of punishment for the impious and the wicked. And so those signs we see in the sixth seal of Revelation, earthquake, the sun became black, the moon became like blood, the stars of the sky fell to the earth, and so on. So images drawn from Joel and from other prophetic books. These images mean the day of the Lord is coming. That's basically the meaning. The day of the Lord is coming. Those images are the signs of this coming. Then we see people, the kings of the earth, the great men, and so on and so on. These are basically what the book of Revelation calls the inhabitants of the earth. Almost a technical expression, and basically I would call them the citizens of Babylon. And you see that these people are very afraid of God's coming. And so they try to hide in caves and among the rocks of the mountains, calling to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him we see on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. The wrath of the Lamb is almost an oxymoron. I have never seen an angry lamb. But let us not forget that the lamb is also a lion, and a lion can get angry, indeed. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who can stand before it? Why are they afraid? They are afraid because they understand that the day of the Lord is coming, and they know that it shall be the day of judgment. Now, should human beings be afraid of the coming of the day of the Lord? Well, it depends. If you sincerely try, with the help of the Lord's grace, of course, to live a life of faith, a righteous life, living as the Lord intends you to live, then it is good news. It is the day of redemption, day of salvation, day of encounter with the Lord. It is great. It is good news. But if you live a wicked life, completely forgetting about God, His law, His commandments, and so on, then the day of the Lord shall surprise you and it may terrify you. Oh my God, but I am going to be judged for my life. Yes, that is true. So you see the outcome of this announcement may be very different for those who are God's faithful and those who are wicked. Next time, we shall turn to chapter 7. I see you soon for the next conference. I would appreciate if you would not forget to click on the thumb up icon of this video, and in this way, you shall help this YouTube channel to get a better referencing. Thank you.